New leads 2022, right? What real estate investors can do to generate leads using social media. And then I despise like those goofy TikTok videos, right? People dancing, doing all that stuff. I don't like that. I like business. I'm direct, and I'm going to show y'all how you can get leads from social media the right way today. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to run a successful social media campaign. Today we're going to talk about Facebook specifically. You should be able to take this presentation, take some of the resources that I give you, and go run a campaign. I'm going to tell you how you can get access to like some of the recordings and stuff like that. Me and Dan were working on some stuff so you can get access to recordings and different resources. We're trying to come up with a membership that you can pay for. Normally, I don't teach this presentation in this market because I'm training my competitors. I'm about to show y'all exactly what I do to get business and get leads into my business. So I am not going to be overly generous with sharing the information. So one of the things I want to do is hold back the presentation. And the only way you get that presentation is by becoming a brag member. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce myself really quickly, but right here, you got all the real estate education you need, but you still don't know where to start, right? So the reason why I wrote this like this is because a lot of times, like I do a bunch of events around the nation, right? Even in other countries. And a lot of times people have all the education they need, but speak up. Okay, they have all of the education they need, but they don't know where to apply that education. Where are you going to apply that? You learned everything that you need to learn, but now where do you apply it? You need to apply it to leads. You need to get deals coming in the door, right? So I saw this as a problem for people, and I wanted to take on that problem. I wanted to get paid and taking on that problem too. So we started we have a digital marketing agency. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about that too. So there are some free reports here. These, yes.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Are you able to come just a little bit closer to the mic?
I'm doing the best I can.
Okay.
Let me see. Is that better?
Yes.
A little bit better? All right, so I'll try to speak up and project better. These are these are marketing reports that I've written. These are free. Take those. It's 2 over there. So on the screen, it's only this one, but there's another one, the 11 common social media mistakes. That's all for you to take for free. And I'm gonna tell you how you can get some more resources towards the end of the presentation. Right, all right, so welcome. My name is Jerome Lewis. I am your host for today. Who is this man? I'm from Philadelphia, PA. If you wanna know specifically, I'm from South Philly, right? I like to call myself a silly and serious millennial. I'm a technologist, right? So I'm pretty good with technology. And then I'm an introvert, right? So a lot of times people feel like they have to be some amazing extrovert in order to have success in this business or speak. I'm a cold-blooded introvert. I hate like in-person events, to be honest, but I know I have to do it, right? I have to serve. I gotta serve people. So it's not about me, it's about what I can do for other people. All right, these are some pictures. I know Dan for a long time. Actually, Dan was one of the first people that I met when I got started in real estate. And he has this thing where he built brag. He's like, we want to see more people that are like us. And when I saw Dan at my first real estate meeting, it left an impression on me that I didn't know of until like recently. I started to think about it. I'm like, oh, wow, it's somebody that was there that was like me. And we had a conversation. I don't even think he remembers, but I was like, just started wholesaling. He was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm wholesaling. Cause then I'm gonna do the wholesale, then I'm gonna do the flips, and then I'm gonna do the buy and hold. That's the typical structure that people tell you to do. He was like, you don't gotta do that. But I had already paid for the coach, so I continued with the wholesaling. So I continued wholesaling, and that's kind of what got me here today. So a little bit about me, that's my story. In this presentation, you're going to see like those little, like you see links and videos, those are emojis. You're going to see that stuff because these slide presentations, when I present, I'm not only lecturing. This is, you're going to be able to take a resource and you're going to be able to use this stuff. So those are links that you're going to be able to click on and learn more about me, learn more about the presentation, and do what you need to do, right? So I told you about my personality. My personality is introvert. I am a cold introvert, but you also have like behaviors, right? So DISC is a behavioral assessment, and it tells how you interact in business, right? So I'm a high D. That means I'm about results. All I care about is the bottom line, right? I'm not the friendliest, they say, but I will get you results. And then the C is, I forget what it's for, but it means I'm very detailed, right? So these are my strengths. I'm result oriented, very detailed, and I'm an implementer. I'm really good at implementation. Also a real estate investor. I run a marketing agency, as you all know. People always ask me, what do you do? We can do like everything. We run an agency. We can do just about anything. And if you want to learn more about me, like personally, my website is jeromelewis.com. All right, so these are some tips for you to get the most out of this training, right? Remember, I don't just do lectures. So if you have questions, raise your hand. If it's a relevant question, I'll answer it then. If it's coming up later during the presentation, I'll address it then. But these are the tips for you to get the most out of this training. Take screenshots. So if you're on Zoom, do screenshots, right? If you're here, take a picture of the screen with your phone. That's a good way to capture notes, right? The recording and slides. So there will be a recording, and I'm not going to let Dan give this recording out because, again, I'm telling y'all exactly what I'm doing in my business. And if y'all want that recording, you gotta pay for it somehow, right? You gotta pay for it, and that's going to be part of the membership. Links and resources. So remember, like I said earlier, that little link that you see right next to the camera, those are links. So when you collect the slide presentation, it's a guide. You can click on those links. So that means there's a link for you to click on and access like a specific resource. So as an example, on this screen, it says screenshots. That's a screenshot software that I like to use in my business that I recommend. More tips to get the most out of this training. YouTube. So this is, I try to get Dan into this, but this is one of the reasons why I don't like in-person events, right? Because I appreciate them, but YouTube, right? So I like to play around with the speeds on YouTube. And if it's one thing that you leave with today, not even about your marketing, like this YouTube tip that I'm talking about will save you time. It'll cut your time in half. So on YouTube, right? A lot of people get scared to do this, but on YouTube, you can play around with the settings, like the speed. Closer. You can play around with the speed and you can go up, you can go down. So a lot of times people are like, Jerome, that's a lot of information. You went too fast. Well, if you collect the recording later, you can slow it down, right? Or you can speed it up. Maybe I'll talk too slow for you. But the thing about YouTube is, look, when there's a recording or a training, I watch those things at 2 and 3 times the speed. So if I'm watching it at 2 times the speed, an hour training, that means it's only 30 minutes. And there's this video, that link right there, that YouTube link, that's a video, and it's talking about in detail how you can save yourself time on trainings and watching videos and stuff like that, right? You can't 2 times an in-person event. That's one of my gripes. Like, both have their pros and cons, but you can't do that, right? That right there saves you so much time. You can get so much done by using that trick, that YouTube trick, playing with the speed. And it's some very practical stuff. It sounds scary, but you graduate and then, you know, it'll change your life. Again, so be engaged and be involved. The best way that you learn is to be engaged. Don't just sit back and listen. Don't just take notes. If you have a question, raise your hand. Talk with me, talk to the speaker, ask questions. YouTube, and so I have a YouTube channel where I share most of the training and most of the tips. You can collect the slides. I'll tell you how you can get access to that. And I also run a Facebook group. It started off as a social media mastermind, but now it's real estate marketing implementation. All right, so these are some stats that I just generally like to share about social media. It would be a good idea for you to screenshot or take a picture of that slide. So if, you know, be engaged, be involved. These are some stats. This is why you want to use social media in your business. Like, social media increases your business. If you're using social media, you're guaranteed to get more business if you're doing it correctly, right? I'm not talking about the goofy TikToks. I'm talking about using real social media, right? So this is a stat. I'm a real estate instructor. I teach like agents like every week. And this is just a good stat for anybody that's a licensed realtor. It's that lead generation is the top tool for realtors. It's the top lead generation tool. All right, so let's get into the presentation. Enough of that housekeeping. You already know what this is. Let's get into the presentation. So before we start, does anybody have any questions? No questions. Perfect. All right, so in order for us to proceed, we gotta do some groundwork. We gotta lay down some ground rules, and we're going to talk about marketing, because a lot of times people get confused on what marketing is. And in order to define marketing, we're going to talk about first what marketing is not. So, right, marketing is not primarily about you, right? When you're doing marketing, you're doing all this branding and stuff like that. You want to be cool. Marketing is not about you. Marketing is only about you and the respect of what you can do for someone else. That's the only time that you matter in your marketing. Your marketing absolutely does not matter about you. It's about your customer. And marketing is not something that you do one time. Marketing is a constant process. It's a constant activity. So this is what marketing is. Marketing is the process or activity, right? It's not something you do one time. It's not something you do, oh, I made a post and that's it. No, you do it constantly. It's a constant process, right? Advertising, drawing attention to a product or service in a public medium. So when we're posting this stuff and we're doing stuff on social media, that's advertising. We have a lot to go through today, so I'm going to be going fast. If you have any questions or you need me to slow down, say something, right? We got a lot to go through. So these are, when you're trying to understand marketing, right, it can be very confusing. And the way that what I found to be the easiest to understand marketing is to break it up into 3 phases, right? I call this the simplified approach to marketing. And those 3 phases it's the least confusing way to think about it, right? You got some people, oh, you got 5 phases, 7 phases, multiple phases, 3 phases, right? We want to keep it as simple as possible. So phase 1 is lead generation. Phase 2 is lead conversion, right? Lead conversion is where you work on that relationship, you work on converting and getting that person to buy, right? But then after you convert them, you got retention and referrals, right? People love the retention and referrals, but they don't like to do the work there, right? There's still work to be done in the retention and the referrals. Right, so a lot of times we get in this business, I don't have the exact stats or the slide, but lead generation is like 10 times more popular than lead conversion and lead retention and referrals. So a lot of times we're sleeping, and inside that report, it reports more on the importance of lead conversion and lead referrals. But a lot of times we do lead generation and we stop there. We call it one-step marketing. That's not all you do. You need to work on the conversions, and you also need to work on the retention and referrals. Like once you have them as a customer, you want to get more business from them because they can introduce you to other people. All right, so we're going to qualify what is a lead. And first we're going to talk about what a lead is not. So this is a reality check about leads. Every conversation that you have is not a lead. People on the list somewhere that you're not using, those are not leads, right? So what is a lead? There are 2 important aspects of leads that I want you to understand. Number 1, a lead is a prospect or customer that have shown interest. They've shown interest in something that you're offering or something that you're doing. It's not every conversation that you had, like we talked about in the prior slide. And then this is how I like to qualify leads. You've collected their information. So if you have their information and you can follow up with them, then you consider that to be a lead. Underneath these leads, right? Because a lot of times we, as professionals, we can detach ourselves. We call them leads, and we forget that leads are actually, they're not a thing. Leads are people. So it's important to understand the social and humanistic aspects of these people, right? A lot of times, oh, I'm getting all these leads. These leads are trash. It's not the leads are trash. They're people, right? We're irrational. So we have to understand that there are people and there's a process. We got to take them through a process, right? The better we can understand and provide value to those people, right? I emphasize people, the better your results will be. So they are leads, right, in theory, but also understand that they're people. All right, so this is a lead qualification story. So I had this student that I was working with from one of my classes, and I asked him, I said, what's going on? How's your business? And I said, how many leads are you working on? And he gave me the story of, he's like, oh, I just came from with my mother, and her friend was interested in buying or selling a house. And I said, okay, that's cool. How many leads are you working on? He was like, just that one. And I'm like, well, how is that a lead? You don't have any way to follow up with that person. That doesn't really qualify as a lead. So I wanted to share that story really quickly because it's important that you collect information, right? Just because somebody said they were interested or you had a conversation, you don't have a way to follow up. That is not a lead. Okay, so what is lead generation? Definition and qualification of lead generation. So lead generation is, again, like we talked about with marketing, lead generation is an ongoing process, right? It's not something you do one time. Ongoing process or activity that brings interested prospects into your business or funnel process, right? After you establish, so another issue that people have is they don't have a clear offer. They don't have a clear offer, product, or service, right? After you establish your clear offer, your service or your product, that's when your marketing starts, right? When you have something clear that people can understand and that you can give to people, that's when your marketing starts. All All right, so these are some ways to make your marketing ongoing, right? A lot of times people, they get on social media, hey, I don't know, it's confusing, I'm posting, I don't know what's going on. There are different ways you can market and keep your marketing going. So you got time and effort, right? Remember I was taking shots at those TikTok people? That's what they're typically doing. They're doing time and effort, they're creating those videos, they're doing all that dancing, they're putting a lot of time into their lead generation. You don't see me doing that stuff because I don't have to. I use a different method, right? Time and effort. You got budget and systems. So this is what I like to do, right? I do some time and effort, but mostly I like to do budgets and systems because I'm a business person. I like business. I like to conduct and attract business, right? I don't want to be silly. I don't want to be dancing and using filters. I want business.
You really don't like dancing, do you?
No, I don't. I don't like it because I'm going to show y'all, like, it's so trendy, but it doesn't get business. I get a lot of people, they come in and they're like, yeah, I'm doing all, and they're doing so much and they're not getting any business from it. No business because they're so caught up in those trends. So ideally what you want to have is a hybrid, right? You want to do some time and effort. You want to do some budget and systems. If I was going to, it also depends on where you are. So if you ain't got no money, then maybe you got to do the dances, you know, sell your soul. But if you got some money, then you do some budget, you do budgets and systems. All right. So these are some reasons why you need lead generation. So in my experience, right, I'm a millennial. I'm not going to tell you my exact age because people, I don't know, get weird about that. But in my time living and being on this earth, like straight selling, it never worked. Like, hey, do you want to do business? It never worked. People are looking for value, right? So customers want value. Your lead generation can provide that value. Lead generation sells for you, right? So you don't have to convince. When you do your leads, you position yourself properly. Your lead generation marketing sells for you. Lead generation can, and most of the time, this is what you want to do these days because everybody, like, let's just say we're all real estate investors. We all offer the same service. It's like, well, why do I pick you, right? You have to determine what's it's called a USP, right? Well, you can educate and inform with your lead generation and marketing, right? Why is your process different? Why should I work with you? Your marketing does that. Lead generation brings business to you, so you're not chasing those leads. You can still chase some leads if you want to, but if you lose lead generation marketing, you don't have to chase those leads, right? I'm not a big proponent of chasing leads. I might do once in a while, but I don't chase leads. Even in like dating, I don't chase, I track. Lead generation marketing, it brings predictability. It gives you clear goals and objectives. I'm big on, like y'all saw my profile, like high D, high C. I care about numbers and results. Lead generation marketing gives you numbers and results. What does the balance sheet say? How many leads, how many conversations did you have? Not how good you look when you was dancing, right? So structure. And then lead generation helps with your ACE, right? It's called your authority, your credibility, and your expertise, right? So when you build your marketing correctly, it does all of this for you. All right, so now we're going to get into the more technical aspects, and we're talking about social media, right? And we're going to talk about which social media, right? So these are some of the most popular social media platforms you got. And I got these two listed because a lot of times people don't understand. Google owns YouTube. Google is not necessarily social media, but they have YouTube. And YouTube is not social media either, but they have a social media aspect to it. So these are the most popular platforms that you see generally online, right? Then you got Meta. It's called Meta now. We mostly know it as Facebook, but they changed their name. The parent company changed the name. So you got Meta, Instagram, and Facebook. These are basically all of the same company. In 2012, Facebook purchased Instagram. So a lot of times, I'm gonna show you a slide later. A lot of times people try to do like just Instagram, they get caught up in that trend again. And it's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense if you understand how to do your marketing correctly. And I'm gonna show you in more detail on one of the slides. You got TikTok, LinkedIn, Bing, and that's it, right? So Bing is Microsoft's version of Google. So yeah, Google, they basically control like 95% of the internet. You got Bing and the other ones, let's say 90. You got Bing and the other ones competing for the rest of the space, but they're still effective because certain people never go to Google. You know, you got, not trying to be funny, but boomers, they never change their settings and they just do everything on Bing or something like that. So Yahoo was another one. I can't think of any more. But so So these are the most popular social media networks, like in terms of, so a lot of times, and Dan, we had this conversation before too, a lot of times people get caught up in the trends, right? And you can see the numbers here, like Facebook and YouTube clearly jump out over Instagram and TikTok. And I pulled this from, I think this stat is from Statista. And like I said before, these are all links so you can click and reference them later when you collect the slides. But easily, there's a much larger crowd on Facebook and YouTube. Like, you go all the way down to Instagram, it's about half. So it's like, is it worth it? Should I be spending all my time there? Maybe, maybe not. Especially when you can do, if you do it on Facebook, it's already going to go over to Instagram. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but people do it. And I'm being honest, I appreciate it because they give me more success in their failures. Beware of your audience. Just because it's trendy doesn't mean you should be using it. So this graph again, right here, you see that huge gap. You got YouTube, 81% of adults are using YouTube. 69% of adults, right? We're talking about adults. We're not talking about trends. Adults are using Facebook, and then all the way down to Instagram, 40% of adults are using Instagram, right? TikTok, all the way down, it's at 21%, and I don't know the other one, but the point I wanted to make here is that significant gap. And it doesn't make sense to just do Instagram or focus primarily on Instagram when you can use Facebook as the driver and also still hit Instagram.
I have a question.
Yes, question.
That's a stat digital usage. Is there a stat on sort of on the business conversion of either sites, which one is best? So maybe there's more adults on Facebook, but you actually sell more things on Instagram. Is there anything that's like that?
I'm pretty sure there is, and that's what I looked up, and this was what I found. I don't know exactly what stat, but I'm pretty sure easily Facebook and YouTube they're older. The Facebook and the YouTube demographic, they're older, right? So this perfect transition. People say age is nothing but a number. I'm not sure about that, right? So who has money? Older people. Right? Us young people, the younger people, they don't have money. I was 30, 20 years old. I didn't have no money. I couldn't afford anything. Older people, and then we're in real estate. So we're looking for houses. Who owns the houses? Older people, right? Most of the time, older people owns those houses. So you can go on and you can do your goofy dances on TikTok and Instagram, but they don't own houses. So you're going to get all those views. They don't own houses. They don't have credit cards. So you have to keep that in mind. It's important to understand your demographic and your audience. Right? This is just another stat. Like, most of your business is going to come from these older people. Like, there's a huge gap there. All right, so Meta, right? I'm still getting used to that. Meta and Facebook versus Google and YouTube, which is better? So people always ask, which one is better? There is no better. Both have pros and cons, and both work. You need to employ both in your business. You can win with either one. You can do just straight up Facebook, or you can do just straight up Google, and you can have a lot of success. So me, I started off with only Facebook. I did only Facebook for a couple of years, and I got all my deals, all my leads straight from Facebook. I've since expanded to Google, but you can have success with either one. You just pick one and you stick to it. Neither is better, right? They both have pros and cons. All right, so Google, the difference between Google and Facebook is, just go right here. Google is intent-based, right? Intent-based search. So when somebody's on Google and YouTube, they have a specific intent in mind of what they're trying to do. So when you go to Google and YouTube, you're looking for something very specific and is relevant to what you're searching for. So that's intent-based and search-based marketing. Typically, these leads in this lead generation process is more expensive, right? It's more expensive, but they say it's a higher quality because the intent is there. Google, right? However, it is more complex. In my experience, it's harder to learn compared to Facebook. Facebook, right, and Meta, I'm still getting used to the name, but I'm on an interchange. Facebook and Meta, that is disruptive-based marketing. And what that means is there is no intent. There's really no intent. There's like interest. And when you're on Facebook and you see people trying to do their goofy TikTok, trying to catch you with their attention, the purpose is they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to disrupt your experience to get your attention. That's what disruptive-based marketing is. That's that's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's most of those platforms. Google, Bing, YouTube, those are more intent and search-based. On Facebook, one of the benefits is, like I was talking to Dan, so me and Dan, we just ran a campaign, right? And when you're using this disruptive marketing, you get more frequency and more time. I've seen Dan, I don't know how many times I've seen Dan this week from the ad that he's running. So you get more time, more frequency, and you're pressing upon your people more when you use disruptive based marketing. It also more expensive. So this, Google, I forgot to mention, Google is PPC. It means you pay per click. Every time someone clicks on that link or that marketing, you pay for it. Well, with disruptive based marketing over here on Facebook Meta, you pay per impression. And typically you're paying per 1,000 impressions. They call it PPM, which is pay per mil, which is 1,000. So Facebook is easier to learn, and that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on Facebook because it's typically the easiest platform to learn, right? People are going to say, oh, the YouTube and the Google leads are so much better, but it's more complicated. It's harder to learn, right? All right, so Meta/Facebook. What is Facebook? Most of us know what Facebook and what Meta is. It's a social media platform. They have 2.5 billion monthly users, right? We saw that in the graph statistic. They own Instagram. So this is why I tell people, you gotta be careful not to focus on just Instagram, because and you're gonna see later on in slides, when you do Facebook, you can automatically attack Instagram. It's just a simple checkbox. And then social media. So people, oh, I don't like social media because people are on there doing, so it's not about you. Remember we talked about our marketing? It's not about you, it's about your customers. So you might not like social media, you might not like Instagram, you might not like that stuff, but customers and prospects are there waiting, right, to do business with you. So it's not about you. Keep in mind with your marketing, understand that your marketing is not about you. All right, so why Meta/Facebook? Because we saw in the graphs, it is the largest and it is the most popular social medium out there, right? Google beats it in traffic, but Google is not really a social media platform. Google is a portal that leads to everything else. So Facebook is still the largest and the most popular. Facebook is the easiest platform that you learn marketing and advertising. It's also the most familiar. Competition. So on Facebook, right, on social media, there are a lot of big companies competing, right? They understand, I guess they try to get into the TikTok sometimes, but they understand when you use paid advertising. When you start using paid advertising and you start using correct marketing, you can now compete with those companies because you are a person, right? You can be more social compared to those big companies. So Facebook, it gives you a good opportunity to compete and eliminate those big competitors. All right, interest targeting. So when we get a little further along in the presentation, I'm going to show you interest targeting and the information that Facebook, most of these companies have about us. It can be scary sometimes, but we can also use it to our advantage. Groups. So one of the reasons why Facebook is so effective is because of groups. And groups have, in marketing, right? People are like, all right, where do I start marketing? How do I market? Where do I start? One of the most effective things you can do in marketing is find, so they say, like if you're selling hot dogs, right? It's right here, find a starving crowd, right? So as an example, on Facebook groups, let's just say we were interested in selling a course to real estate investors. Well, guess what? There are several Facebook groups around real estate investors, and we can go directly in those groups and market to those groups. We don't have to build an audience. Facebook already has that audience built for us. The other platforms, they don't have these groups with people that have similar interests. So this is another reason why I picked Facebook over all of the other platforms. Those people are already gathered looking for that specific information in those groups. And you can also, one of the strategies that we do, we call it our digital mayor concept. You can also build your own group, right? So you can build your own group on how to, I don't know, best take care of your house. And leads can come from that group. So you can't really build that group or that community on the other platforms. And then one of the things I like about Facebook is I like video marketing. I'm big on video marketing because many stats you'll see later, but it's forgivable, right? You don't have to be this high professional. Like on YouTube, when you get on YouTube, I appreciate YouTube too, but when you get on YouTube, you're competing. Like Lillian back there, she started her YouTube after me.